A while ago, I made a decision that looked completely sensible. I bought into a 55 plus building near my kids in Minneapolis. Financially, it made sense. Logistically, it made sense. But within a year, I realized something surprising. I felt depressed there. One thing that I have learned in midlife is this: designing a next chapter isn't about making the right decision, it's about trying things on until something fits who you are now. And I know many women quietly face this question in midlife: how do I know if the life I'm building actually fits me anymore? Well, hello, my friends. I'm Sharri Harmel, and this is Your Next Chapter, where we talk about creating lives that feel intentional, grounded, and deeply our own, especially in midlife. In my book, though, I talk about trying on ideas because the truth is, most of us don't really discover what fits for us by thinking about it. We discover by living it, by stepping into the possibilities, by experimenting, and sometimes by realizing very quickly that definitely doesn't fit. Over the past few years, I've noticed something interesting, and that is that when women begin designing a life after 50, the process usually unfolds in stages. And first, we begin by trying on where we live. Then we start noticing the rhythm of our days. Then we become more thoughtful about the people around us. And finally, we begin choosing the pursuits that give our life meaning. Now, let me show you what I mean. The first thing many women experiment with is environment. This is because where we live shapes us more than we could ever realize. I experienced that during COVID. I moved back to Minnesota and bought a house that I completely gutted and renovated. The house was fantastic. At the time, I thought it would become my forever home. Minnesota, though, holds many memories for me, some beautiful and some incredibly difficult. So after living there for a while, I began to notice something really unexpected, and that was that I felt like I was shrinking, almost fading. The environment just did not energize me the way Boston or Paris does. And that realization totally surprised me. But that's the power of trying things on. You only live, or I should say, we only learn by living inside the experience. We can't just think about it. We have to live inside of us. That 55 plus building was another example. Again, on paper, it made perfect sense. Even though I only lived there 1 week a month, it didn't feel right. So that was another idea I tried on and learned from. Even here in Boston, I tried on an apartment that required a complete gut renovation. I'm telling you, nothing had been done for probably 35 years. And for a few months, it was exciting. Oh God, it was exciting. A design project, a transformation. And you all know how much I love design and redoing interiors. But when I looked at the reality of it, I realized something. I didn't want to spend this chapter of my life living in the middle of a construction project. So I sold it and I moved on to this place. Another experiment, though, another lesson. And that's exactly how designing a next chapter works. Once the environment begins to feel right, we get past that, we notice something else, and that is the rhythm of our days. Whether or not the pace of life that we're living actually suits us now. For example, I love attending retreats. Antique and Garden Show in Nashville, perfection. And just a few weeks ago, I attended a wax seal retreat put on by Catherine Hastings that was hosted in New York City. It sounds very random, and it was. I absolutely loved it, and I did a little video on that. It was creative. It was quiet. It was thoughtful, and the rhythm felt wonderful to me. Large tours where you're constantly moving from experience to experience and, busload of people, no, that's not for me. That no longer fits my rhythm anymore. I loved it there for quite a long time. But in midlife, we begin to pay attention to those differences. Even tiny habits shape our rhythm. As you all know, over on Substack, I've done this whole series on tiny habits. And sometimes I have to ask myself, even now, after going through that tiny habit routine, and I think I have to do another one, I have to ask myself the question, am I spending too much time streaming shows? Am I reading enough? Am I cooking the way I want to eat now, which is using lighter meals, more vegetables? Those small choices shape the pace of our lives. And midlife invites us to become much more intentional about the small choices we're making, or the tiny habits, as I call it. Another thing we began trying on in midlife, I would say, is our circle of friends. Circle of friends, circle of advisors, maybe those we rely on as teachers. Some relationships, deepen beautifully. Others reveal that they no longer belong in this chapter of our life. That doesn't mean anyone is wrong. It simply means we become more intentional about who we surround ourselves with, because people around us influence the direction that our lives take. And finally, we begin trying on meaningful pursuits. Even the way we contribute begins to shift. There was a time when charity involvement for me often meant attending large galas or fundraising dinners. But I've realized something about myself, and that is I don't enjoy those environments very much anymore. Instead, I want to be involved in the work itself. And in a few weeks, I'll be joining a small group of women. We all got together as a group, and we're cooking dinner for families at the Boston House, which is a home where families stay when their children receive cancer treatment. That kind of involvement feels meaningful to me now. It fits this chapter of my life. Trying things on also requires one step that many people skip, and that is reflection. After an experience, we have to pause and ask ourselves, did that energize me? Did that feel aligned with the life I want now? Does that belong in the chapter I'm creating now? Reflection is what turns the experience into wisdom. Now, in closure, designing a life after 50 rarely begins with certainty. Never, actually. It begins with curiosity. We try on environments. We try on rhythms. We try on friendships. We try on pursuits. And slowly, piece by piece, a life begins to take shape that actually fits perfectly. Now, if this conversation resonates with you, I explore these ideas and more over on Substack and inside, more deeply, actually, inside the Next Chapter Salon. Both are linked below, so you can check us out. But I'd love to hear from you. Tell us, what have you tried on in your life recently? And what did you learn from that try-on experience? All for now. I'll see you next week. A biento.